Hey, it's Zim, and today we're looking at Gordian Quest. This game is in early access still, so is it worth picking up yet? Now, I've played around with this game for some months. It's been in early access for a fairly good amount of time, and there's a lot that they've done to it to make it stand out, with the art style to the gameplay. I think when I first picked it up, I thought it was going to be very similar to Slay the Spire, and it's not much in that way. There is some card deck building aspects to each character, but that's basically where those similarities end. Now, on your starting screen here, you can replay the prologue once you go through it. It'll tell you the patch notes, which is quite nice, and then obviously resume or new game. Now, if you hit new game, you'll be presented with two options, realm mode and campaign mode. Realm mode, what does that mean? It's essentially their roguelike version. This is kind of one of the things they've added in very recently. And so you can do a quick run or an endless run, and it allows you to play without feeling like you have to commit to these characters and progress their story. And especially if you've already beaten their stories, having a roguelike mode available so that you can play the game and not have to just kind of go along with the story, so you can just try out different builds on characters, is very nice. But most likely you'll start out with the campaign mode, because that's definitely where the heart of the game is at. Play duration 5 to 10 hours. I don't know if I agree with that time, but it's pretty close to that. Once you choose campaign mode, let's skip that. Let's just have an ongoing campaign. It'll be presenting you with this screen. Now, there are 3 acts in this game, and as you can see, the first 2 acts are out. Now, you can start with Act 1, or you can start with Act 2 if you want. Now, if you start at Act 2, notice that level 17 is the base for this, so all your characters will start at level 17. However, if you play through all of Act 1, and then move to Act 2, you can actually carry over those characters at everything that they have on them, including their skills, which is really cool. But it's nice for maybe if you've already played through all of Act 1 earlier in early access, and then things got reset or changed, and you lost data, and so then you don't have to replay that, and you can immediately start playing the new content. There is definitely a lot of content here, and for everything that they've done, I think it's really well done. The art style is really cool. The writing is pretty decent. Now, once you choose which act you want to start in, you will choose your hero. The heroes are all gender locked. These are the characters. You don't get to change how they look, and they each have a special assigned class. So Lucius is a sword hand, which in D&D is basically a warrior, a fighter. Now, they also have 3 symbols. These are specializations. These specializations allow you to customize the characters in unique ways, and it will also change how they play, obviously. You can click on them to see the cards that they can potentially add to that character's deck. Now, you'll start with a little bit of each, but as you level up, you'll get to essentially really specialize in the way you want, which is really cool. I really like that. It's a neat idea, and it makes replaying these games far more interesting, because you might start out as a swordsmanship fighter and then play through Act 1 and be like, oh man, I'm not big on this swordsmanship sword hand. So next time I'm going to build them more to be a leadership or warrior. For the classes, you also have Druid, Cleric, Bard, Ranger, Warlock, Scoundrel, which is essentially Rogue, Goalmancer, which is the newest one, and Spellbinder, which is essentially Wizard. All these characters are pretty sweet. They each have their definite unique feel to them, and as you play the game, you'll essentially have 3 party members. So you'll want to build your team to synergize with each other, but also kind of fit that traditional D&D role where you have a fighter, a healer, and a damage dealer. Now, don't get me wrong, the cleric, who tends to be one of the best healers, is also a solid damage dealer and a solid tank. So you can definitely have those roles split across 3. You could be a druid, have a cleric, and have, a mage for just some pure extra damage, and that would work just fine. You definitely get to play around with it, which is really nice. I'm going to back out, though, and I'm going to jump into the game I'm currently playing, which is in Act 1, so you can see everything. So there is a central town, so we'll start there. We'll just go ahead and enter. And in the town, some of these buildings, when you first start, will actually be closed, but you'll reopen them as you help them and quest along. Each of these characters tend to have their own story, but once that's done, they also have things that they can buy and sell to you or help you out with. As we can see, this store is still not open. And then we have guards, and that's just little bits of flavor text, essentially, which is nice. Now, back to the map. Outside on this map here, we get to see this entire zone for Act 1. So we're centralized here, but we can see there's the Vale Woods, the Royal Crypts, the Old Burial Ground, tons of things to expand out into as we progress the story. However, we essentially will pass along these nodes. Each of these nodes have different things that will happen. Green arrows going down means that there is a dungeon or something that you're entering. If there's a question mark, it's a random event, which tends to have both positive or negative outcomes. If we look at the red skull, singular, it's just a basic encounter, something that you should probably be easily able to take care of. If we look at the group skulls, that's what they call a horde encounter. This is a little bit tougher, and if you click on them, that'll actually show you what you can encounter. So 8 enemies over 2 waves, so probably 4 and 4. He seems like he's a big bad. He's kind of the elite, and then you have 3 and 4 there. Now, there's also the giant red skull. These are deadly encounters, and those are just 2 big heavy guys, essentially. Doesn't mean that you might necessarily be able to handle it or not, but just know that they are designed to be harder. And then if there's a red circle kind of around this wizard here or around this door, there's a quest located there. So I have 2 quests right now to go do those. You'll also note at the top of the screen we have different resources. Gold is like gold in any RPG you've ever played or any video games. What you use to buy and sell, buy stuff with, and you get more by selling stuff. Supplies is a little bit different. So supplies you'll burn if you camp outside, and that's how you can heal when you're not in town. But supplies will also be used as other things in random encounters and whatnot. So it's a resource that is important to have on hand pretty much always. And fate is a cool system. Fate is essentially, so in this game you'll still roll a die like in D&D. Not in combat, but for like random encounters. And here we can try to see if we can proc one here. Perfect. So a familiar chill brushes across the skin, one that you felt before. The Rift Lord is close by. As you ponder your next action, a blood-curdling human scream suddenly pierces the air. Followed by a loud thud, it sounds close by. Moments later, the chill passes in the other direction. So we can do 2 things, right? We can head towards the sound of the cry, or we can head in the opposite direction. So what it does is we'll choose one hero, they'll make an agility check, which is a dex base, and it'll tell me the success of my characters. So Alphonse, who is the rogue, or scoundrel as they call him, has the best chance. So we'll choose him. So we'll select him, which auto-selected. So score to succeed, 13. We'll roll our die. There you go, we succeed. Now, if I had failed, I could actually spend fate to re-roll that die so that I can essentially not fail. Although, if I failed the second roll, there's no choice, you just fail. So, we give chase in the Rift Lord's direction. His presence is light and fleeting, and you have trouble catching up with him. However, Alphonse gained XP. And then, seems like some other things have happened. Navigating through alleyways, an idea to get the high ground seizes you. Clamber up the nearest stairs, hoping to catch sight of the Rift Lord. Seconds later, you spot his almost ethereal form drifting from rooftop to rooftop with unnatural speed. He heads in the direction of the far northwestern city walls, and then astoundingly leaps over the walls in one bound. Whatever you're up against, you're going to need a lot more help. So, a node on the map has been modified, which often happens with these random encounters, means that either quest nodes or those random encounters or the enemy encounters will now have something added to them, which will make them either more dangerous or sometimes more easy. Go ahead and continue there. And we see that it went to 2 enemy nodes. So that's what Fate can do, but it can also do a couple other things. And we're going to go ahead and click on our character here. And we're actually going to jump straight to skill grid first. So as you level up, you get to invest skill points into your skill grid. You start with 1 tile, but eventually you'll be able to start adding more and more tiles. So as I spend 4 more skill points, I unlock the next skill grid. So we get to add a new tile to this. But you also can learn skills from a school of your choice, which is pretty cool. This allows you to customize your character in certain ways. Now, when you learn a skill, you don't get to choose what card to add to your deck. In fact, it will present you with 3 options, which are kind of randomized and selected. Now, if you don't like the options that are presented to you, you can actually spend Fate to re-roll those as well. So Fate is kind of a modifier to luck, and you can also spend it sometimes through random encounters that might also ask you if you can spend Fate, but most of the time it's mostly to just modify luck. And so you can also gain Fate by doing certain things through random encounters or through encounters throughout the quests. It's a cool system. I like the Fate system. I like that it's kept track of up there. All right, now back to the inventory screen. As you can see, it's just like a D&D character. You've got armor to wear, potion slots, offhands, rings, belts, and a necklace. These will all buff your character in different ways, not only in stat buffs, but they also will add cards to your deck, which is a really neat idea. Notice that the ring doesn't, but the boots will add shift to my deck. Potions are essentially not shared. So if my warlock, for example, has 2 potions, but she has none, and she's super injured and needs a potion, she doesn't have one to use. She just can't get one. I'd have to, in the inventory outside of combat, give her one, kind of like how Kudo has one. Now I don't have one on her because she's a healer, so it's not too big of a deal. So also show you the cards in your character's current deck, as well as their modifiers to their current stats, their initiative, action points, and hit points, and where they are in formation. Now you get to choose where you want them. And each one kind of tells you where you want to be. Obviously, you want your tanks in the front row. You probably want your ranged guys in the back row, though that depends on your ranged characters. The Warlock, for example, I tend to want in the mid row based on the range of his abilities. And once we get into combat, I'll kind of show you why that matters. But that's the basics of the inventory. So let's go ahead and jump into a combat here. And there's one waiting for us right here. And as we can see, it'll tell me the rewards. I'll gain 7 HP if any of my characters are hurt, but it'll grant us 1 additional fate. Alrighty, and we're into battle. Now, up here is basically the order that they're going based on initiative. So as you can see, Alphonse will be acting first, then my Warlock, then my Cleric, then all of them. You'll notice we're on a grid. These grids will essentially dictate your positioning and whether or not you can hit someone from where you are. So, Alphonse, for example, can do a, let's see, we'll observe here first. And we're in stealth right now, so we can do this if we want. But, oh, he's actually able to hit everyone. It's pretty good. Hit her with that. Now you'll notice this ability that I just played moved up front, which means that they swap. Now most of the time that's fine. You get to control your characters on the battlefield. There are certain abilities your opponents can do and that you can do as well if you have them that will manipulate their positioning or your positioning. However, there's one frustrating thing. Whenever you're fighting with AIs, so sometimes in the quest, you're helping some guards defend something. So you'll have a couple guards on the map to help you. They're controlled by the AI, and they will swap positions with you all the time, and it will throw you off all the time, and it frustrates me. Just a little complaint, though. Now, notice Swift Strike can only hit the front 3, so I can't actually hit her or him. So Swift Strike will just go for him. And then we'll stab him. Now, if you want to move a character, you can, but it'll cost you one of your action points. Your action points are down here in the lower left-hand corner. Most people just have 3, but obviously those can be eventually increased through a number of different ways. We can Arcane Hail here, which will do just damage to everyone. It's not a bad idea. Arcane Spike. So the Warlock that I'm building is basically all about making them bleed. And then he gets bonus damage because they're bleeding. And then obviously he actually has some abilities that he gets bonuses if he's bleeding, but we're not playing that build. So she probably wants to switch with Alphonse. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to Righteous Blow, and it has him, so that'll be that. So now the enemies get to act. And as you can see, she's been hit, and she's also taking some bleed. Alrighty. It's pretty good. Alphonse is really good. He's a great damage dealer. But, I mean, all these classes are really cool. Some of them are definitely harder to use when you're still learning out what they can do. But once you start getting the hang of like how everyone functions, it's definitely pretty easy to build a powerful team that just punishes enemies. Now, you'll notice I can't pitchfork anyone here. So, but we can Arcane Hail. And that's combat. Then you get XP. You get certain bonuses for meeting certain requirements. As you can see, we have 2 level ups. We also gain rewards. So in this case, we got that 7 healing. We got the extra fate point, and we got some gold. So then I'll show you the level up system. So as you can see, we have 1 available skill point. So we will put it into one of the available slots. Now we can move on to this grid. This gives health and a respec point if we want to respec, but I don't think we do. I've been pretty careful with how I want to build. That is one thing, like respecing is a little bit harder in this game, which I'm fine with. I believe respecing should be harder, especially in single player games, where your choices should make more of a difference and matter. But let's go ahead and get that. And we'll increase our intelligence. That's all for that. If we spend 3 more, we'll unlock the next grid. We get to choose where they're paired up, but obviously you need a connecting path to get to those nodes. So I might be trying to go to this talent slot soon. See here. It was her. So, as we can see, she doesn't have a grid yet, so once we spend this point, she will. She can learn 1 skill from school of your choice. That seems like a good idea. In this case, we will learn from kind of doing a channeling build. So let's do that one, Divine. So, as we can see, we can pick a new card to add to our thing. If we didn't want any of these, we could actually redraw it, like I said, with Fate. Tempest Bolt is pretty solid, but as we can see, it costs us 5 action points, which means we have to channel it down. And so there's a potential that you'll just have that as a dead card in hand. Applying 1 immunity is really good, just blocks damage. Mana Siphon's okay. Yeah, let's use that Fate that we just got. All right, Righteous Blow gives you a bonus channel. This will consume channel, but then raises maximum channel. This tends to be better later in the game. In early fights, you just aren't going to be ever in need of that. And then 10 damage, it's pretty solid, but she's not really meant to be there. She's more single target and tank, so we'll take the Righteous Blow. But as you saw, I could also spend a Fate to redraw again if I wanted. And there's chances, so it does tell you that you're kind of locked after so many chances. And that's how you upgrade your characters. So, overall, this game is really solid. I love the art style. The soundtrack's pretty decent. It's pretty stock standard for what you'd expect for an RPG in this style, essentially. Go ahead and exit to menu here. All right, and that's Gordian Quest. So, is it worth picking up in early access right now? Currently, the price is $19.99, and while I don't know if they plan on raising it when it fully comes out, it is kind of your standard indie game price right now. So you're not getting a discount for picking it up in early access. However, all things considered, yeah, I think it's worth picking up. I think they've done a great job on continuing to add content to the game. I love the art style. The music's pretty decent. There's a real heart to the story. And like I said, Realm Mode is something that they just recently added because people wanted a roguelike mode for this game. They wanted to be able to do just kind of the engine building and skip through the campaign so they don't have to commit so much time to it or come back. Or like oftentimes I've started a campaign and then forgot what I was doing and then felt like, oh, maybe I should just restart because I'm not that far in. Yeah, and I definitely think Gordian Quest is worth checking out. At $19.99, I think it's a solid deal, and if you like D&D, if you like the card builder, deck building style, I think you'll have a lot of fun with this game. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.